I found out my fiancé was going to marry someone else in her home state, so I crashed the wedding with our engagement photos and got my revenge. I, 31M, thought I had everything set. I was engaged to a woman who seemed like the perfect match. We met at a local charity event, clicked immediately, and soon started planning our future. We lived in my city, but she always mentioned she was originally from a different state where her extended family still resided. No big deal, or so I assumed. She'd go back there sometimes for family emergencies or events. I never suspected what she was truly up to. It all began when I discovered a suspicious note in our apartment. Handwritten addresses, a date circled, and references to a wedding hall in her hometown. At first, I shrugged it off. Maybe she was scoping out wedding venues for us. I asked her about it casually. She gave a vague answer. Just some ideas for a possible out-of-state ceremony, she said, changing the subject. Something about her evasiveness made me uneasy, but I let it slide. As the weeks passed, I noticed she grew secretive with her phone, having hushed conversations late at night. If I asked who was on the line, she'd laugh it off, just an old friend. Meanwhile, we were in the middle of our own wedding planning, or so I believed. Whenever I'd try to finalize any details, she'd stall, claim she was too busy. My father commented once how unusual it was for a bride to show so little enthusiasm about her wedding. I tried brushing it off as her moodiness. Then came the day my entire world flipped. I got a call from a friend who lived near her hometown. He was cryptic, asking if she and I were in an open relationship. Stunned, I said no. He sighed, then told me he spotted her with another man, arms intertwined, at a local cafe. She wore what looked like an engagement ring, but not the one I gave her. My heart pounded. My friend had discreetly followed them to a fancy event hall known for hosting lavish weddings. My head spun. I told him, "Take pictures if you can. I need proof." He hesitated but agreed, snapping some distant shots, showing her smiling up at this mystery man, ring glinting on her hand. My stomach lurched with betrayal. That evening, she returned to our apartment, chirpy, claiming she'd been out with coworkers. I studied her face. She looked so relaxed, so normal. Inside, I was a storm of disbelief and fury. But I forced a calm front. I decided to gather more evidence before confronting her. If she was scamming me into believing we were engaged while actually planning another wedding in her hometown, I had to see how far she'd go. I found bank statements on her desk showing large deposits that didn't match her usual income. Some from that man's family. Maybe? My mind reeled. It looked like she was a con artist, set on having me pay for half a wedding while simultaneously preparing for a separate marriage with this other guy. Or maybe the plan was even more twisted, like fleecing two fiancés at once. Unthinkable. Yet the clues pointed to something insane like that. Clutching these photos and documents, I knew I had to act. No way I'd let her slink away unscathed, continuing her double life. I promised myself I'd uncover the wedding date, show up, and reveal the truth. She wanted to humiliate me behind my back? I'd expose her in front of everyone. And so, that's exactly what I prepared to do. The next few days were tense. She kept up her routine, leaving for work or errands, probably finalizing the other wedding. Meanwhile, I dug deeper. I found plane tickets in her email, dated for next week, straight to her hometown. She told me she had to visit family for a medical emergency. But these tickets landed on the exact date my friend said a wedding was happening at that fancy venue. My chest clenched. So it was true. She planned to vanish, marry someone else, then return to me with some excuse? I confided in my father. Furious, he insisted I expose her. "Don't let her get away with humiliating you," he said, his voice trembling with anger. I assured him I'd handle it carefully. My father offered financial support if I needed plane fare or a place to stay. I told him I'd manage some acts of revenge you handle personally. I discreetly booked a flight for the same day she planned to leave. She had no clue. I invented a story about traveling out of town for a friend's bachelor party. She barely batted an eye. Perfect. On the day of departure, she kissed me goodbye, oddly cheerful. I tried to stay calm, returning the gesture. "See you soon," I whispered. My stomach churned with both heartbreak and fury at her duplicity. She walked out, suitcase in hand, thinking I was none the wiser. I followed an hour later, heading to the airport. My heart hammered the entire flight. I pictured stepping into that ceremony, brandishing our engagement photos to her unsuspecting fiancé and the guests. My father texted me encouraging words. Do what you must, but be safe. That kept me steady. I arrived in her hometown, took a cab straight to the wedding venue. Dressed in a suit, I tried blending in. The place bustled with staff setting up for a grand event. White roses, draped satin, a glossy sign reading, "Congratulations to the bride and groom." My father's friend from there joined me, having recognized the fiancé as a local big shot. He guided me to a vantage point near the side entrance. Meanwhile, I clutched a folder of pictures, shots of me and my fiancé in happier times, wearing my ring, hugging, proclaiming love. Also that day's newspaper, to prove they were current. She wouldn't wriggle out by calling them old or doctored. As guests arrived, I glimpsed her from afar, wearing a bridal gown, smiling at the groom. My pulse raced. This was it, my final confrontation. The ceremony started, music swelling. I let them do the vow exchange, waiting for the precise moment. Right as they were about to say, "I do," I stepped forward, clearing my throat. A hush fell over the small crowd. Heads turned. She froze, color draining from her face. The groom looked baffled. "Who are you?" someone demanded. I raised my voice so all could hear. "I'm the fiancé from her other life. We've been engaged for months. She's been lying to both of us." Gasps rippled through the attendees. The groom scowled, turning to her, confusion written large on his face. She stammered, "This man's insane. Don't listen to him." The officiant paused, uncertain whether to continue. The groom demanded answers. "Is this a joke?" My so-called fiancé tried grabbing my arm, hissing, "Get out! You're humiliating me." I broke free, stepping up to the front. My father's friend hovered nearby, capturing everything on his phone as evidence. I addressed the groom. She told me we were engaged, living together, planning our wedding. Meanwhile, she's up here about to marry you. Her cheeks flamed red. She screeched, "That's not true. He's a stalker ex." My anger flared. "Ex? Here are pictures from just last month, with the date stamp." I pulled out an 8x10 print of us kissing in my living room, clearly wearing an engagement ring, the date on the corner. The crowd craned their necks. The groom's mother, clutching the front row seat, gasped, "My God." She tried to snatch the photos, but I held them high, showing the assembly. We've been engaged for months, ring included, and she's playing both sides. Look at the ring in these pictures. The same ring she used for me, presumably, or a different one. The groom's face hardened, noticing that the ring in the photo matched the bride's finger. He stared at her in horror. She turned desperate, launching a meltdown of excuses. "He's lying. Those are old pictures. We broke up ages ago." But I'd prepared more proof. I flashed a phone screenshot, a text from her, dated just last week, saying, "I love you, can't wait for our wedding." I read it out loud. The groom's family looked outraged. The groom demanded, "Is that your number? Did you send that?" She was cornered, stuttering. Sensing the tension, a couple guests rose to usher me out. But the groom halted them. "No, let him speak," he said, eyes locked on her. She tried another tactic, claiming I'd faked texts. I scrolled to the conversation, showing it matched her phone number. My father's friend, who recognized her from pictures I'd shown him, confirmed it was indeed her. The groom's father glared at her. "How dare you do this to our families?" She realized her plan was crumbling. Her expression turned furious. "This is sabotage. You're just mad I ended it with you. I don't love you." She spit the words at me, but they sounded hollow. I offered a final piece of evidence. An email chain about the wedding venue deposit for our wedding, dated 3 weeks ago, with her signature. Gasps rippled again. At this point, the groom signaled to the officiant, who stepped aside, uncertain. The bride attempted to grab the microphone, urging everyone to calm down. But the groom firmly took her by the arm, away from the mic. He hissed at her. "What the hell is going on?" She stuttered, tears welling, trying to cling to him. He yanked free, motioning me to continue. I laid it all out. How she'd used my funds for wedding planning, how I'd discovered her second fiancé arrangement. The crowd was riveted, half in shock, half outraged. The bride realized she was cornered. Suddenly, tears poured down her face as she tried to salvage the moment by slandering me. He's controlling, wouldn't let me be free. I had to find happiness elsewhere. The groom's father thundered back. That doesn't excuse conning two men with separate engagements. The bride's mother, stunned in the front row, looked ready to faint. She'd likely had no clue either. I turned to the groom, voice subdued. I'm sorry to wreck your day, but you deserve the truth. She's been living with me until last week. She left claiming to visit her family, but apparently, she was about to marry you. He stared at me, speechless. Then, as if a switch flipped, he turned on her. We're done, he declared, eyes full of betrayal. She broke into sobs, wailing how this was all a misunderstanding, that I loved you both differently. The audience collectively cringed. She'd gone from denial to half admission in the same breath. I glanced around, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction. I hadn't come to find a new fiancé or salvage love. I wanted to ensure she wouldn't keep scamming. My father's friend kept filming discreetly. The bride tried rushing to me, sobbing. Why did you do this publicly? We could have talked privately. I shrugged, voice calm. You humiliated me by secretly planning another wedding behind my back. Public exposure is the least you deserve. The groom's mother demanded the bride leave. Furious guests muttered about the fiasco, some chastising her for toying with two men. She glared at me, eyes full of venom, but I stood unwavering. If she thought I'd silently slink away, she was dead wrong. Within minutes, half the wedding party began departing. The officiant quietly packed up. Florists and caterers looked confused. The groom stormed off, phone in hand, presumably calling a lawyer or something. The bride, undone, sank to her knees, sobbing. Some friend tried consoling her, but the damage was irreversible. I turned to exit, feeling the tension finally break. My father's friend asked if I was okay. I nodded, adrenaline still coursing. Outside, the sun blazed, a stark contrast to the meltdown inside. I breathed in fresh air, simultaneously liberated and hollow. My fiancé, ex-fiancé now, was fully exposed. Her arrogance led her to believe she could juggle two engagements. That arrogance collapsed in front of all who mattered. A week later, I discovered she tried calling me relentlessly. I blocked her. She also texted with claims like, "You ruined my life. You owe me for all the wedding expenses." The nerve! If anything, she owes both me and that poor groom an apology. I heard from acquaintances that the groom canceled everything, demanded refunds where possible. He refused to see her again, even threatened legal action for fraud if she'd used his money. Serves her right. As for me, I focus on moving forward. The heartbreak stings, but I'm grateful I discovered her betrayal before we formally tied the knot. My father said I turned the tables like a boss. Maybe that's true. In the end, she faced full consequences of her betrayal. She stands alone, humiliated, and I walk away with my dignity, if a bit battered.